Good evening, friends. Welcome to the Thursday edition here of the Mystery Wine Blind Tasting at Field & Main Cabana edition. I am sitting in one of the cabanas outside. It's been too beautiful to not miss the opportunity to be out here, and our guests just vacated this cabana, allowing for me to slide right in to spend some time with you and this lovely, dare I say, kind of elegant looking wine. It has this shimmer, and it is kind of explosive out of the glass right off the bat. So looking with you tonight to sitting back in these kind of, I don't know if on your screen, they have these dappled little light lines coming through the remainder of the day here, and from these little string lights that are up, it's sort of a magical realism sort of setting. So maybe we'll do a little Gabriel Garcia Marquez kind of free form talk about this wine, right? We'll just do this association as we run through. But if you're joining and tasting with us this evening, please chime in and let me know that you're here. I'm spending the evening with you. Bob, thank you as always. And the committees, hello hello to everyone, I should say, up in Pennsylvania. Perfect. Great to have all of you with us. So what do you guys see, right? This is pretty neat wine. This is clear, which okay, I mean, that might tell us some things, Dean, too. So in the interest of full disclosure, Dean is saying that he has seen the top of the cap, which, you know, that for many of us who've experienced a number of these wines over time would be looking at that comment and thinking maybe this is Austria, because an Austrian cap would have that red streak and tell us something, or perhaps it's a branded cap, and so it would tell us something about the producer and that he's not going to share with us. So I appreciate that. So commenting on the profile of the wine, but not necessarily the place of origin. That's perfectly fine. We'll happily have your comments, and you can modulate them as you think appropriate. I'm getting ahead of myself because as I opened this, and I just did moments ago and poured it, there was an aroma and smell that jumped out, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's do what we do and look at the wine's appearance first. As you're looking at the color, evaluating that color, and in this case, its intensity or opacity, and you can see through this. I mean, I have the bottle here, of course, and as the white label, and I can read, you know, Field & Main Mystery Wine Game right there through the label or through the wine. So a lighter presentation of red, and when you swirl this wine, it has a pretty thin body, doesn't it? What are you getting? Yep, Sarah, exactly. Once you see that Austrian cap, it's like, well, this has got, you know, I know a lot about this wine. It's kind of brilliant what the Austrians did post kind of the snafu they had with respect to quality wine and an issue there. They really dialed everything in about their production and their packaging and their presentation. And so Austria is just uniformly presented and beautifully prepared. And so once you see that little capsule, it's super identifiable, like the rooster crest kind of in Chianti too. There's just these identifiable characteristics that we've never really talked about, like playing the wine bottle braille game. Like if it was a Chateau Neuf de Pape, there'd be that embossed sort of bottle that you could kind of feel your way through. And I've never actually thought to play the bottle game that way. Start to manhandle a bottle just to see if there's any kind of designating embossed elements on the bottle, but I didn't feel any here. So not an Austrian cap. The foil flipped off, so we know that. So we're, you know, ruling that out potentially here, not Austria. Although, like, just by appearance alone, I would have thought right off the bat there were some potential Austrian varietals, and so maybe we consider those from other places, but we can get to that in a minute. As we look at this, what do you have by way of formation of that rim, and then what's forming as it comes down? Are they quick running tears that dissipate and kind of just reabsorb into the wine itself, or are they holding up in the form of a long-lasting leg? What do you see? Fast-moving legs. Hey, Peggy and Chris, so nice to have you here. They were just in for dinner recently and picked up a bottle of the mystery wine, which is awesome. So glad to see you this evening. Cheers to you guys. Yeah, there's a quality about this that certainly can be considered Austria. Like, let's do that just initial, right? If there's something that's jumping out and telling you something about the wine's telling you something, or you're reflecting on what you see and already understand something about the wine, you're certainly welcome to add that, right? And as I've said in the past, add that, put a pin in it, don't necessarily get tractor beamed by it, where you're like, I have to think about how it is that, as opposed to really assessing the wine and determining what it might be. But Austrian varietals, since we're talking about it, right? Saint Laurent, maybe here, Pinot Noir from Austria, something on the lighter skin side, perhaps. But we'll see. There are other options too. We haven't even gotten to the nose. Well, cheated a little bit and got ahead to the nose. The nose got to us. It's pale and see-through. Absolutely. It's what color would you call it? I mean, it's more reddish, right? But it's not. It's not. There's a little like maybe I'm pushing for a little brickish note here. Like it's not tawny, it's not brown, but it's not like super deep ruby either, is it? Partly maybe because of the clarity of the wine. Pale garnet was your guess. Nice, Julie. I like that very much. It's not purple, right? And so we already know a lot about this particular wine, as we've talked about many, many times before. Oftentimes when the wine's more in the medium realm, not fast running tears, not quite as see-through, it has a lot more potential. And it's something you can't necessarily tell a lot about the wine just from its appearance. But right off the bat, for a wine like this, you're not thinking this is Petit Verdot. This is not Tannat. This is not Cabernet Sauvignon, likely. It would be an anomaly situation for those wines to be presented with this kind of level of clarity in the wine. And so I think we're looking more at the Pinot Noirs, right? The Saint Laurent, maybe the Gamay, the Norello Mascalese, the Nebbiolo, perhaps, right? The lighter expression wines that, that this could be just based on its appearance. Definitely not Petit Syrah either, right? No. Aglianico, things like that are really bold and powerful. One interesting grape that we've talked about in the past that this might be, and it kind of spans that spectrum, is this could be Grenache. Remember we had that Figueroa kind of, I think it was from La Mancha. It was a Garnacha from Spain that was really light and elegant, more sandy soils. But we've also had Garnacha that coming from Spain that's super black and deep and rich and brooding. And so Grenache is in the midst there. It's also in the running for Julie. Gamay, Chris, 100% should be in the running with that color. Absolutely. And so as we get all this information from just the visual perception of the wine, one thing to think about there relative to being like further ahead in the process than we are in some wines, because they aren't really telling us enough yet. This one's telling us enough to know what it's not for sure, is to begin to think, all right, well, if this is fast running, this might be more cool climate, and the varietals we threw out could be more cool climate. But say, for example, let's just say Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir, if we said Pinot Noir and then we said like Russian River Valley Pinot Noir, that's going to be a little riper expression, a little bit richer in presentation. And so that'll help you kind of modulate, well, all right, if this is Pinot Noir, and I'm not sure at all if it's Pinot Noir, but if it is, and it's grown in many, many places, where would it be grown? That would be this kind of presentation in terms of a fast running tier. That would be an indication of maybe lower alcohol. And so you have that in the back of your mind. And as you're smelling this wine and tasting the wine, are you thinking about like the aromatics that you might find in cool areas, right? And so this could be Pulsar, for example, or an alpine kind of red that would come from the Jura or Switzerland. And then you're also playing the bottle game too, and cross-referencing screw caps. Who works with screw caps? And South Africa certainly does. Austria, obviously, we've talked about, certainly does. But there are, I think you could say, like Oregon. Oregon does. Oregon for sure does. Chile does. But I think a lot of places are playing with that on the certainly sort of an entry tier or appropriately kind of accessible price tier. Folks are bottling in screw cap with the expectation that you're going to drink the wine and enjoy it right away. And so Australia certainly has that, and Australia has cool climate like Mornington Peninsula and things down that way for some really beautiful Pinot Noir. New Zealand, obviously next door, has that too. So we don't have a clear understanding right now of, based on the appearance alone, on whether this is New World, Old World. But we have a pretty broad spectrum of like, this could be New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, could be some parts of Italy, perhaps, maybe Grenache in Spain. We talked about that for a second. Austria, perhaps not. If no one had seen the capsule of any sort, we would be considering Austria, I think, for sure, too, just based on the color. You would throw in Germany from the Pinot Noir side. We have had a German Pinot Noir from the Pfalz, I think, in the past. So that's an option. France, clearly, from the Gamay perspective and the Pinot Noir perspective, and potentially other varietals there too, but less so kind of Grenache for me in France. If it was Grenache, I think it would be somewhere else. Chile, perhaps Argentina, going to Patagonia, and then the United States, right? There's options certainly in Oregon from our lighter expression, both Gamay and Pinot Noir. We could be talking about a totally different varietal from New York. We could be talking about, Zweigelt or something, or Saint Laurent from New York, for example. So too many options right now to have a sense yet, but we have a great spectrum to consider as we start to smell and taste. So we should do that. We've spent the longest time, I think, in our history on just the appearance, the first 12 minutes on this one. Okay, what do you smell? Looking for a few things. Fruit, earth, and wood. From the fruit side, what kind of fruit? And then what's the character of the fruit? What's the state of the fruit? Is it dried fruit? Is it fresh fruit? Is it tart fruit? Is it raisinated fruit? Is it candied fruit or stewed fruit? And what type of fruit is it? Is it red fruit like berries? Is it blackberries? Is it something with a stone in it? Stone fruit, peaches, nectarines, plums? Do you find tree fruit like pears and apples? Is there a tropical fruit? Any fruit? From the earth standpoint, what do you get? Red cherry. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, for sure, red cherry. Cassis, a hint of cedar. I like that too. Great descriptors. You're getting kind of a little, it's more cementy to me, more like rough cement. Not a mineral thing here, but it's more just a cementy note, a rocky note. Alcohol, leather, wood, right? The cherry's there, but it's more of a faint whisper. There are other elements. You smell alcohol, Gene? Like in the way of like something hot, like a sensation, and like kirsch, like a distillate of cherry, for example, or a cough syrup where you have the alcohol element and it's kind of carrying the aromas of the fruit that's in it. What do you smell by way of alcohol? The leather for sure. It smells like saddle leather, like leather with a little bit of sweat, something that's been worn and cared for and held, a leather glove, but a nice driving glove, not a work glove. Or like a beautiful leather purse. There's a quality about that. Having one of those olfactory scents or memories of like my mom when she got her first Coach purse. I remember smelling that like in the store. The Coach store smelled like that beautiful leather. Hotter than the tears imply. Very good. Great note. So a little bit warmer perhaps. So maybe, in the context of that Grenache kind of talk, a discussion, Grenache can kind of give you more alcohol even when it presents lighter. And so it could be a warmer climate, but just on kind of sandier soils and not necessarily give you the richness there. Like a hint of vodka. Interesting. Cool. Okay. Well, let's, any other earthen notes or woodsy notes? Any notes or indications of wood, right? Spice. That cedar note we talked about earlier. That's wood. Any other spice notes? And Julie, great note there too, relative to the aroma not being super expressive by way of fruit, maybe more of a cool climate expression. The touch of possible vanilla. So finding a little perhaps presence of some oak. I think that cedar note, a little bit of oak here is not outrageous potential there for sure. But it's not real prominent, right? It's not like leading. So this is not like a 100% new oak production. So, all right, let's taste the wine and see what we see on the palate as it relates to the few things we've noted, the fruit, earth, and wood things, I should note, that we found on the nose, and how it relates to that experience of the visual and then the aroma. We already kind of touched on it there too, that the tears don't necessarily match up with the actual profile, perhaps the flavor and the weight density of the wine on the palate. I try to, with my first taste, reflect on and kind of gather some of those few notes, the fruit, earth, wood notes, but I'm also looking for the profile of the wine from its structural standpoint. Where's the acid at? Where's the tannin at? Is there a residual sugar quality about this wine? Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting kind of profile. Like there's like a desire in the wine to be fruited and to have some riper fruit expression, and yet it's sort of the second half of the wine for sure is a little bit more tart. I don't think astringent is the right word. I don't think there's a little drying sensation, almost as an astringent level of tannin. There's very low tannin here, right? Erica, welcome. Hey, great to have you here. Back to Gamay. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I mean, if Gamay is not in the running by the appearance and by the aroma, that cherry note, Pinot Noir is not in the running, you're kind of not heading down the right path, right? We have to be thinking about those. And in the context of France, for example, Gamay is right next to Pinot Noir in terms of where it grows. Alsace could be another option too for Pinot Noir. And so, it's becoming a little bit, I mean, I'm back to the nose as I'm swirling it here, like tomato leaf and cooked tomato. And like there's a savoriness to the fruit expression that's not super fruity. Dean, no, I'm hoping not everybody, but I'm moving along. Hopefully you have my reception here coming through. There's a tartness to this that I'm trying to parse out. Is the tartness tart cherry flavor, or is it cherry flavor with acidity? And that's going to the point of low acid question mark coming from Julie. I think it's medium acid. I'm still salivating, but it's not aggressive. But it's kind of the dominant structural note in the wine because there isn't an abundance of weighty texture. I would say this is a lighter wine, right? We're talking about skim milk here, vis-a-vis 2% or whole milk. And it also isn't a terribly tannic wine. So there's not a lot of other things going on structurally here where the acidity is sort of the focal point of structure. And yet it's not necessarily super racy acidity. It's not awful, right? And there isn't that ripish kind of fruit to kind of create this counterpoint back and forth. So yeah, I think there's a medium acidity here. Yeah, I agree, Sarah. Lower tannins. There's some, they're minute. They're not certainly the prominent, and they're not something that explodes or lingers on the experience with wine. They're just sort of kind of in the background saying hello, and maybe we'll leave early. You know, they're not hanging around. And I would say too, Dean, yeah, that the taste I just had, there isn't a length to the flavor expression. So building a little bit, opening a touch, 20 minutes. It gets 2 more minutes. Chris, talk more about the vintage. You think the vintage is easy after getting to this point? You think it's younger, older, what? And are you still thinking Gamay? We can start to work the actual places, right? And work through some of our ideas. Like, let's try to pinpoint one, but let's also first, if you can, what isn't it? Is it Patagonian Pinot Noir? Is it, if we're taking Pinot Noir, for example, what might it be and where might it be? And can we eliminate certain places? Yeah, fresh, 24, 23. I get you, Chris. I think so too. I mean, there's not a real variation of color. The Gamay, I think, is interesting. And for me personally, let's take Pinot Noir and Gamay. And this is an oversimplification, especially in light of the past several months where I've tasted some really lovely Gamay. And Gamay can be extraordinary, I think. But generally speaking, very general, I find the quality about Pinot Noir to have more dimension than Gamay. There are exceptions. I'm going to stop with my caveats now and make my point, but please note, I'm not slamming Gamay. I don't want to hear it from the Gamay Mafia, right? So Pinot Noir, if I was to say how I would describe Pinot Noir vis-a-vis Gamay, Gamay is going to be a little less dimensional than Pinot Noir typically. And so this has a little bit less dimension. And so Gamay I like, right? And that's not a denigration of Gamay necessarily. Sometimes that simplicity is beautiful and enjoyable and exactly what you want, right? You're not looking to sit and contemplate layers upon layers of flavor. And that can be a lovely thing. And you can also achieve layers of flavor and some complexity. But I think at the height of complexity in the given grape, Gamay is here to Pinot Noir being here. So that the most complex Pinot Noir is going to be more complex than the most complex Gamay, if that makes sense. That's enough on that. So Gamay is in the running for sure in my mind. And Julie, interesting note about a little bit of bitterness. Like, there can be a quality about a wine in its phenolics, and so in its maturation on the vine, the grape, and how ripe it gets, and how there could be a quality that there's a ripeness to the grape that hasn't been fully realized, and so can be this sort of sour or bitter note perhaps, and there also can be a little bit of bitterness sometimes that comes through by way of some stem inclusion or whole cluster winemaking, and in the case of you're taking the grapes on the cluster, the whole bunch, and pressing that. And so there's a little bit of contact with the stems and the seeds. And as a result, you got a little bit more of that kind of, like if you chewed on a grape stem, there's a bitterness. And so that could be part of this. And oftentimes when you do that, you don't get the same level of extraction of color. And so you get a lighter wine. So there could be some whole cluster here, which would be very consistent with Gamay, with Pinot Noir, with even Syrah, for example. But I'm not picking up notes of Syrah like that black pepper and some of that smokiness, earthy meatiness, not necessarily here. Green pepper coming out? Yeah, that wouldn't necessarily be Gamay then. But maybe like a slight herbal note sometimes. And like, for example, Norella Muscalese or something like that, where you're going to get some of this sort of garrigue element, this sweet herb. Are there any places you're drawn to, or places you feel like you could take off the map? Yeah, there's the coolness of this, that fast running leg, a tier rather, that small leg that kind of disappeared quickly. The brightness, it's pleasant, it's elegant, it's delightful, kind of light. But that I'm kind of shying away from anywhere that would be a little bit warmer, right? So that Spanish sandy soil Grenache, Garnacha, not so much. I think the quality of the wine that, like if we're talking about that Russian River example, or maybe Chile or even Patagonia, I haven't experienced. We're cooler. So like we need a little coastal influence. We need some kind of river body or water. We need something that keeps this fresh and bright, maybe a higher elevation. But this isn't hot, like a hot expression, a warm climate expression. Ooh, it's second pour, more interesting. Some more smoky note to me, like there's more of an oaky note, wood. So I'm not like led to one particular place, in with ease, right? And so I don't think California either. Does upstate New York? Yeah, I mean, upstate New York could play with Lagrein or Blaufränkisch or something along those lines, or an Austrian varietal done up in New York, which I think this fits that kind of profile to some degree. I don't think this is, you guys tell me what you think, but if we're going to say Gamay or Pinot Noir, I don't think this is French. Like it doesn't necessarily lead in the earthy way or as much with a signature. How do I put this? Of that place. This seems more like a facsimile of Pinot Noir or Gamay from somewhere else. Does that make sense? And I agree, Dean. There's a little bit more expression. There's more fruit. There's a little more wood. Ooh, there's tannin now. A little bit of tannin. It woke up. It came out real shy and is way more expressive. Yeah, Gamay not from Beaujolais. Like we have a really wonderful Gamay that I think we're going to pour for Thanksgiving from Martin Woods out in the Willamette Valley. Delicious. South Africa for Dave. Awesome. You certainly can find some cool climate elements. And Zweigelt, Erica, absolutely. We were just talking about the Zweigelt being an option from New York, for example. Zweigelt from Austria. Some people said they got a sneak peek of the cap and they sort of ruled out Austria. So some of us are working with a little bit of a stacked deck in that regard. Could it be Grenache from another place? Like this is kind of my sense of this wine, is that it is an atypical varietal for the place, or the place doesn't necessarily have a typicity of varietals, and therefore they're experimenting with this varietal, be it Gamay, Pinot Noir, Zweigelt, Saint Laurent, something like that, done somewhere else. And so from that standpoint, it's a lot harder to nail down what the place is, because we're talking potentially about a varietal that's not necessarily associated with that place. And so there's not necessarily a signature to know about, or maybe I'm just not aware of that signature. So Dean, I'm with you. So Julie, you're on the sort of South African Grenache side, which they can absolutely do that down that way. Yes, can do that in Australia too. Dean, my first thought, like what drew me in with respect to this wine as it jumped out of the glass, as I poured it, I pressed go live, and I smelled sort of this, sort of like a licoricey kind of note. Some of that whole cluster quality. I mean, my first thought was this is Pinot Noir. And so, but where from? I think the analysis we've done and the way in which we've got there and the conversation that's unfolding right now relative to Finger Lakes I think is really cool, right? Cool climate, body of water, lighter red expression, not super weighty. And that is across the board what you get in Finger Lake Reds. They're not super expressive in a big tannic way, in a big body way. And so you have Cabernet Franc, you have Blaufränkisch and Zweigelt and things of that sort being made up that way that absolutely could be in the running here. I don't think this is Cabernet Franc. I know a little bit of that green came in for Chris and Peggy, but it's not like that's the prominent note for me. I'm stuck more on that cherry note and the Pinot Noir side or Gamay side and sort of trying to figure out, is it one of the two? And I'm really not sure. And so, like, if it's not prototypical, then I have to work my way. I think I could get comfortably close-ish on Germany, Austria, France for Pinot Noir and Gamay. And if we all sort of agree that we're not going to touch Austria, then we would take that out. I don't think this is Germany, and I don't think this is Alsace. I think Alsace has a little bit more density and maybe a little bit more minerality to it. So is this just interesting, like Pinot Noir from... Great point there, Chris. Let me finish this thought, and then I'm going to come back to that because that's a very interesting idea. Pinot Noir from Chile or Pinot Noir from... I don't think this is Mornington Peninsula, like Australia. Is this New Zealand Pinot Noir? Like a little more fruit, maybe. I'm thinking of it being that way. I'm not positive there. So, but a Pinot Noir Gamay blend, Coteau Bourguignon, like a little kind of a cross blend that you'd find in Beaujolais or in southern Burgundy. That's a very interesting idea because that would give you both those profiles. Again, I've been wrong before. So if this is that, there's not sort of the signature element of that I would associate with Burgundy or with Beaujolais. So I have to go somewhere else where someone's doing that. Like for example, I did try once. It's interesting. Brickhouse makes a Gamay from the Willamette Valley in Oregon, and there is a lightness and a brightness, a real high brightness, maybe more acid than this even. I like that we're in a couple different places here, and the group is on a couple different spots, thinking about Zweigelt or something of that ilk, maybe Cabernet Franc even from the Finger Lakes. Somewhere else, not European Pinot Noir, and I'm pretty sure not Australian or South African. So I think that might be where I'm driving now. Eric is also there too, not being in an old world wine region, but an old world varietal maybe. So, all right, where do you want to plant a flag? Where do you want to go? I'm gonna pour another bit and see how much more it's changed in 10 minutes. Because I've got a little tannin now. Not an aggressive amount. It's like my teeth are wearing silk shirts, not fuzzy wool sweaters. Yeah, so Pinot Noir, I think is where I'm going to go. Boy, I'm not positive. The Gamay part and that complexity. There's just such a short finish, and the finish is finishing with acid. A broader area of production for Pinot Noir. I don't think this is West Coast United States. I don't think this is, I don't think it's United States other than potentially maybe the Finger Lakes or something along the lines there. So Finger Lakes, I think I'm going to go, gosh, I'm thinking about South America, but, even like Pais, make some lighter Pais. We've had some Pais on the menu recently here too, also known as the Mission grape or Lista Negra. There's a little bit more earthiness and kind of a little bit more going on there. So there's not quite the same lightness here. So maybe we're in like Chile, a little bit Uco Valley, kind of higher elevation Pinot Noir that's coming out. All right, that's where I'm going to go. And I'm with Chris on kind of the 2 to 4 years old. It's a young wine. It's 2023, yeah, maybe 2024 even now at this point. So I've got Finger Lakes here. I've got South African Grenache, excuse me. Australian Gamay, very cool. And we've got South Africa or South American high elevation. Great. I mean, I think this is a neat one, right? Where we started out knowing quite a bit about the wine relative to its appearance, just because it couldn't be a whole host of things, generally speaking. And then you get down to the wire with some of those varietals, and this wasn't necessarily singing of a particular place, not that I'm picking up, and therefore opens up the opportunity for it to be from a lot of places. And I don't know, I think you'd have to really dig into some more nuance in what we're picking up by way of the acid and try to figure out where that acid would come from. So higher elevation, somewhat coastal influence. So I'm going Chile, Pinot Noir 2023 or 4. That's where I'm going. Let's see here. Yeah, Erica, if you're just opening this is, it took 20 minutes for this to kind of come to a point where it kicked into another gear. So if you're just reaching that point, you're in for a little bit more of a treat there. It was a touch more primary. It was just shy. It's National Cheeseburger Day. Oh my gosh. This is kind of a nice cheeseburger wine, like tangy mustard, pickles, tartness, and then rich kind of meatiness, melted cheese. That would be lovely. Okay, well, Pinot Noir it is. That's very cool. Poulos, where is this from? 2023, hand-picked, Slovenia. Oh, cool. Very cool. So we're kind of just over the border from Italy. So we are old world. Neat. Holy cow. You see that? Making wine since 1239. That's the oldest world. It's getting a lot more interesting. Maybe it's power of association here, but like now smell this wine and tell me you don't want a Reuben too, because there's like a little rye seed coming out of there. If you get that pickled sauerkraut kind of note, that fermented sauerkraut and that Thousand Island dressing and some fantastic corned beef, I would crush that right now with this. Yeah, I mean, I think we did really well. We got Pinot Noir Gamay, right? We kind of were Zweigelt. So we were in the realm of this lighter red wine. We identified that correctly. And then it was just a question of how we place it. And I mean, Slovenia wasn't on my radar that way. Again, it's not a place that is known largely for Pinot Noir, but it has had Pinot Noir there for a long time. So it's inappropriate to say it's not, it's like an upstart area for Pinot Noir. But that sounds like a place we should go visit. No Reuben necessarily on the menu anytime soon here. Maybe corned beef at some point. That'd be tasty. Brisket done some way. We're going to play with brisket this week, though. We've been working on it. It'll feature its way into a pho. And we have brisket and we have flank steak from Kinloch Farm and some of their chuck. And so making a broth now that's going to make its way onto the menu as a pho with a meatball and some braised brisket and some sliced raw flank steak. But speaking of melted, yummy sandwiches, we'll be starting to prototype and work on some of those sandwiches for the coming months at Red Truck Bakery as we reopen the Marshall location with a little special speed oven, which is going to be a lot of fun. So cool stuff happening at Red Truck right now. Getting some banquette seating to create some more seating. The espresso machine has arrived from neighboring country, Italy. So neat stuff that just to look forward to from Red Truck. And a couple of neat things certainly happening at Field Main too by way of wine if you're interested. just extraordinary opportunity came and landed in our laps thanks to the folks over at Winebow. Louisa Rose, who's a winemaker from Australia, from Pusey Vale and from Yalumba. She's been their winemaker for decades and has won every possible award in the world, deservedly so, because she's just a badass. She's just a remarkable woman who understands wine in a way that is at once approachable and super nuanced. She loves Riesling and has grown and made some of the most amazing Rieslings and is sought after the world over for her expertise in that grape. And then also has got a chance to work with some of the oldest vines in the planet. And those are in the Barossa Valley in Australia, and has made some really extraordinary Shiraz and other grapes, of course, too. So she's coming to visit with us on October 22nd. If you are around, we're going to do a deep dive on some really cool Riesling and then dive into a couple of more wines from them, including a wine that they're just releasing in Magnum for us for this event. Not for us specifically, but making available for us for this event, called the 175th anniversary celebration of Yulubin, kind of continuous production in Australia. And it has a blend of different Shirazes from vineyards that are 110, 120, 130 years old. So all the oldest vine material. It's going to be really cool. I haven't had a chance to try the wine yet. It's not here yet. But I said, yes, I want to try that wine and I want to present that wine. So that's going to be amazing. So if you're around, please look for that event in October. And then in November, Rockstar, really cool wines from maybe my favorite. It's hard to say, from Oregon, from Willamette Valley. Just compelling. They're so unique wine. The wines are just fascinating, from really extraordinary Pinot Gris to really special and unique, distinctive Pinot Noir from Antiquum Farm. So some really great events coming up to look forward to. And then we'll have the fall wine buying event, of course, tucked in there too. So October is a busy month for everybody. We didn't actually have an event planned necessarily. We were thinking about one. And then we were told that Louisa was coming through town. I met Louisa years ago when I had a chance to visit Australia on a wine tour. And I met her in the Contours Vineyard, which is the most remarkable vineyard. It's on a hillside and the vines are planted on the contour. So there isn't a straight row. They undulate with the contour. And we're going to get a chance to try 10 plus. I think we're going to be able to try 11-year-old and 9-year-old Contours Riesling at 5-6 years of age. They kick into a different gear and kind of go dumb, and then come out of that with this, from a bracing lime quality to a lime curd on buttered toast. These are just extraordinary wines, extraordinary. So really excited to welcome her and to enjoy her expertise, but also just the wine. So you can carve out a time on October 22nd. Please come visit with us and get a chance to meet this rock star. We're just fortunate to have her in Marshall. Jan Burse, hello. Say hi to Bobby for me and come out and see us, all of you. If not in the restaurant, then I'll see you back here for our next Mystery Wine Blind tasting. Thank you, everybody. This was a blast. Cheers.